I like the fact that this Elvis, the Buzz version of Elvis, is like a superhero. You know, someone who had his call, his superpower, like a call, the
Yeah,
music.
yeah.
And then he became the hero, but also the villain of his own comic book. So,
Mm.
what do you think about this comparison?
That's interesting hearing you put it that way. There's so many ideas of Elvis out there, and like the superhero version of him that existed, and he was almost this messianic figure to a lot of people, and he still is. You know, I was talking earlier about how when I went to Tupelo, where he was born, to the house that he was born in, when I went there, the gentleman who showed me around, he said a lot of people come in here and they kiss the floor where Elvis was born, and so that's somebody revering him in a godlike way. Or you have the people who dress up as Elvis for Halloween, or all the competitions that there are to portray him, and so there's all these ideas out there about him, and so I think you can't make the movie without exploring that superhero, as you say, which is him on stage. But then what was really fascinating to me was getting behind that and finding the human being, and finding the vulnerability and the sensitivity that he had, and the deep spirituality that he had.
And the loneliness as well.
The loneliness, yeah, the
Yeah.
tragic loneliness, yeah.
And please, Austin, tell me that you took something away as a souvenir from the set.
Yeah,
Something you were allowed to take it.
yeah. I took a couple things, but one thing that was really special was when I wrapped, Baz gave me a framed. He gave me a frame that within it was the back of the Unchained Melody jumpsuit. So there's this medallion on the back, and so it's framed on my wall at home, and it's really special because that goes full circle back to how I got the part, which is I sent
Yeah.
Baz me singing that song. So it was really it was profound.
I like the fact that you portrayed Elvis like a superhero, someone who had his superpower, the music, like a call. And then he became the hero, but also the villain of his own comic book. What do you think about this aspect?
Yeah, like partially it's true. I mean, Elvis grew up, he took a lot of his inspiration from comic books, the lightning bolt. As he says in the end of the movie, growing up, I'd read comic books and dreamed of being a hero. And I think because his dad went to jail, because he was ashamed, because of the twin that he could never live up to, he was always trying to be a savior, save his mum, save the family, save the world. And of course, that's an unrealistic expectation. So on the way up, it's great. He had the cape and everything. But at some point, there's a kryptonite. And the kryptonite for Elvis was someone like Colonel Tom Parker, never Colonel, never Tom, never Parker, who was able to just put kryptonite around him, which is remind him of his insecurity or he wasn't good enough, and bring him down. And I think that he is the original superhero in that regard.
And you said before, Elvis and the Colonel are the two sides of one coin.
Yeah.
There is no good without the bad. It is like this when you have success, in your opinion?
I think it's a funny thing, but there's always the paradox, isn't there? That's why I have the Colonel arguing I'm not the bad guy. The bad guy, I mean, look, I was a fan and I always wanted, another Brando film. Couldn't Marlon do one more film? Bowie, can't he do one more album, But they're human beings and they're flawed. And probably they're so great because they are full of flaws, And we, the fans, we just want them to live and be young and perfect forever. And that's the paradox, isn't it? I'm not saying we're bad. I'm just saying that's what happens.
Please tell me that you took away something from the set. Please. As a souvenir,
Oh, I did. I have it right here. There we are. It's Elvis's EP ring.
Oh, wow. Nice one.
That wasn't the only bling I swiped.
Yeah, Baz Luhrmann portrayed Elvis like a superhero.
He did.
He played the hero, but also the villain of his own comic book. So what do you think about this comparison?
I think that the way that Baz decided to sort of show the duality in a person, particularly through Elvis, both being the hero and the villain of his own life, is really, really interesting and fascinating, I think, you know, there is that overarching theme of, you know, a man who is searching to be loved constantly rather than searching to give love, and how that is, you know, and it ended up being the sort of root of his suffering. You know, I think that the duality of man is really investigated in this film. That's both in his father, Vernon. I think that's in Elvis. I think that's in the Colonel as well. That's a strong theme for him. Yeah, I think that answers your question.
You did. And your character, Priscilla, she was for Elvis like home. Every time he wants to come back to himself, he had the music and Priscilla.
Yeah.
So what he didn't know, it was that he became home for so many people around the world. So
yeah.
what does Elvis mean to you, and what this movie meant to you?
I think Elvis actually means a lot to me. I think my experience on this job was, it was a very, very long process, and there were a lot of moving parts. And I think that I will carry this film and Elvis very close to me for the rest of my life, which is an incredible honor. And as well, to share that experience with, you know, the people on the film and everybody that worked on it too is incredibly special. And it's a huge honor as well, I think, to watch people like Austin and watch people like Tom in their element, and working so hard and really pulling it off. I think it's a huge inspiration. In terms of what the film means to me, I mean, we spent 3 years on this bad boy, you know? It took us a long time to put it together, and I was only a tiny clog of the giant wheel. And so I think to be able to, I've said this before, it feels like, you know, we've all been in labor for like 3 years, and now it's like, let's get this baby out there. And so I think to be able to share it with people soon, in its entirety, and knowing the place that Baz made it from, which was with such love and such respect for his legacy and his music, and as well the opportunity to reintroduce Elvis back to the people, back to the next generation. I think it's going to be a really exciting time.
It is. Please, Olivia, tell me that you took away something as a souvenir from the set, something you were allowed to take.
I wish that I could. People ask me this,
No.
and I'm like, I'm so stupid. I should have stolen something. I wasn't allowed to, because my costumes were all made by Prada, which is an incredible honor, might I say. But that meant that I wasn't allowed to take anything back with me. I took some eyelashes, like the big eyelashes that I had, because I was like, these are kind of iconic. They were kind of very disgusting by the end of the shoot. But I think they were like in a little Ziploc bag somewhere. So maybe I'll pin them to something and frame it.
As a memory, you know?
Yeah.